Coming up on this episode of the METS podcast, the Mets extend their winning streak to 6 games, completes a 3-game sweep of the Washington Nationals, but the celebration is definitely going to be muted somewhat by the concerning news regarding Kodak Senga. Lots to get into. Let's get right into it. Roll the music. Welcome to Mike's Mets podcast. I'm your host, Mike Peixoto, and this was quite the game today. Some good, some bad, some chaos at the end of the game, but let's report on the good first, which is that the Mets continue their winning streak. They are still one of, if not the hottest teams in baseball right now. And let's dive right into the game itself. First, I did want to report, if anyone has been following me on socials, I did go to the New York Met game on Wednesday night. It was a fantastic night. I had to rush out of work in order to kind of beat the traffic home and then take the train. So got there, plenty of time, and it was a great game to watch. Obviously, if you were paying attention, David Peterson throwing a 6-game complete game shutout. Certainly surprised to see that happen, and it was a great, wonderful surprise. I've been highly impressed with what David Peterson has done this season. His complete turnaround since last year, it's been something to behold. He is truly very confident right now in everything he's doing, and a legitimate all-star candidate. I'm repeatedly just blown away by what he's doing for them, and it's terrific to see a homegrown pitcher starting to sort of stride his stuff. And this was the highlight of his career, which I thought came just a couple weeks ago when he pitched that terrific game against the Dodgers. I was like, wow, that's going to probably be his season highlight. And little did I know that he was going to throw a complete game shutout, and even more surprising that I would be at the game to watch it. And it was just a terrific game. It was great weather. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. It was just a beautiful summer night at Citi Field, and a packed crowd, which you don't see for a Wednesday night, a game against the Washington Nationals. These are the games that people were criticizing last season about, hey, how come there isn't an attendance here? Well, you know what? The team's now in first place. The team's the best team in baseball. They were a hot ticket, particularly with school out for a lot of young people. It was certainly a very a crowd trending under 22, let's say that, for most of the attendance, at least from what I saw. So it was definitely a big ticket on Wednesday night, and I was just happy to go to it, and for not that much money either. I'm very happy to report I got into that game with little to pay, so it was great for me on all accounts. So let's get right into the game now. So Mets secure 4-3 victory over the Nationals, push their MLB best record to an impressive 45-24. And team's absolutely on fire right now. This is their second consecutive series sweep, following right on the heels of their sweep of the Colorado Rockies. And the offense, particularly Jeff McNeil, has been a major reason why. McNeil, who's been scorching hot this month, continues his stellar play. 3-run home run in the first inning. That was basically all she wrote. That put the Mets up 3-0. And he was 4 for 11 with 5 RBIs in the series. Now batting .316 on the year, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs in June. What a turnaround for him. It's been fantastic to watch. McNeil kind of rediscovering his roots. He's back to like 2022 Jeff McNeil, where he has this swing just working for him. I would even go back farther, actually. Now that I think about that, like 2022, he was more slap hitting. Now he has really kind of found his extra base hit swing again, which was that long like golf swing that kind of garnered him like some mockery, but also some like, oh yeah, like this makes sense. He's a golf pro. Like obviously it would work for him. So yeah, I'll go back to like 2019 when he was all of a sudden broke out that year, and people were like, "Oh yeah, this guy has a little bit of pop." I think hit 19 home runs that year, and he's looking more like that. I look more and more. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is like he kind of like rediscovered what made him so great when he first came up with the team." And yeah, just a great turnaround for him. Brandon Nimmo once again got in on the long ball action. 2 home runs on Wednesday night. That was great. One of them came very close to me. I was about 10 feet away from making a catch. But it was a solo shot in the 5th for Nimmo in this game that pushed the lead up to 4-0. And it looked like that was going to be it. The Mets certainly had their opportunities beyond the home runs. They did once again leave a lot of men on base. Recurring theme, recurring trend for the 2025 New York Mets that thankfully has not bit them too much for the most part, but could have potentially been a disaster had things not worked out for them in the 9th inning. So let's talk about the pitching, specifically a dominant performance once again from Kodak Senga, at least for 5 2/3 innings. Senga was absolutely cruising. He looked absolutely in control, dominant. Lowered the ERA once again down to a microscopic 1.47. He continues to lead the league in ERA, and had just only allowed 1 hit, 1 walk, struck out 5. The Washington Nationals offense is not terrific, but they have some spunk, they have some fire, and coming off of the complete game shutout from the night before, you think they would be a little bit enthused to try and take on an elite starter like Senga has been this season, but he was just terrific, and then he seemed well on his way to another masterful outing. And he was utilizing more of the curve, wasn't using the ghost fork as much, and then all of a sudden things went bad. In the top of the 6th inning, C.J. Abrams hits a ground ball between first and second. Pete Alonso fields it and makes a high throw, just a little bit too high, and Kodak Senga, who fielded his position brilliantly. He dashed over full speed. Senga doesn't really get enough credit for his defense. I think he's a really good athlete. Sprints over to cover the bag and had to leap because that throw was it was meant for somebody like 6 inches taller than Kodak Senga is, and he had to leap to try and snag the throw. Comes down awkwardly, his right foot. He's able to stumble and kind of put his right foot on the base. Comes forward on his left, then again on his right foot, right leg, and that's when he clutches the back of his leg. And it was a tough sight to watch. Senga was immediately surrounded by, trainers. His interpreter Mendoza everybody was out there. Pete Alonso seemed especially concerned. He felt, and Alonso would say later, he felt terrible about it. That he was, he was talking to Senga, and he offered his apologies. It was you could tell Pete felt terrible that he had inadvertently led Senga to potentially a stint on the IL. Good news, he was able to walk off the field under his own power. Not too much of a limp. Walked down the stairs. I mean, like if this was a hamstring strain, which is what they are probably going to diagnose this as, it's a very mild one. So we may not see him for a week or two. I'm going to guess probably with this level of strain, I'm going to say it's probably on par with what the one that Mark Vientos had just a couple weeks ago, and they're expecting Vientos to be back pretty soon as well. So this is maybe a situation where that takes him out for maybe 2, possibly 3 starts, but I really wouldn't see it as something major for him because he did seem to be in good shape coming out of the injury, and who knows, it may be that there's no major problems at all. It may be that he may just have to miss 1 start. and the Mets have a surplus of pitching right now, so there's really no issues. But Mendoza would confirm after the game that Senga is going to be placed on the 15-day IL just as a precaution, and the severity of the injury they're not going to know until an MRI is done tomorrow, Friday. And if this all seems like a little bit familiar to you, it's not surprising. Last July, Senga had strained his right calf, which caused him to miss the rest of the regular season. That came after he already had the strain in his shoulder, the capsule strain in his shoulder from spring training. There have been these questions that have kind of lingered around Senga with the workload that he's been taking on. The Mets have been very cautious with him. They've even, they've fiddled with the rotation a few times in order to give him an extra day of rest. There's some days that you're not really sure when Senga is going to be pitching. Sometimes they kind of they switch it around last minute. And the approach has been working. He's looked really good. He hasn't looked overworked in any kind of way coming off of a season where he didn't really pitch at all. To see him come back and look as good as he has, it really does give a lot of credit to the Mets training staff and to their whole approach in terms of making sure people aren't overworking themselves, that they're eating right, sleeping right, all the stuff that for former Met pitcher Luis Severino had given them a lot of credit for. So a lot of it was working well for him. Again, Lonzo did seem very shaken up about it, and it was nice to see that all of his teammates sort of rally around him. They were offering him encouragement and Senga encouragement. The bullpen, for the most part, held strong after Senga had to exit the game. Jose Castillo and Huascar Brazoban continued the scoreless outings in the 7th and 8th inning. However, in the 9th inning, things got very interesting. Ryan Stanek, who has developed this reputation all season long of being the guy who, if it's not working out for him, it's going to go badly in a fairly explosive sort of way. Stanek struggled a lot. He allowed 3 straight hits to get the Nationals on the board before Edwin Diaz was called in. Diaz was put in a very difficult position, and he certainly, I don't think, was expecting to go into this game, and the Mets were leading comfortably 4-0 with the bullpen taking over. But Diaz would allow 2 more runs on a base hit and then threw a wild pitch. Ultimately did close out the game and secured his 15th save of the season for the 4-3 victory. Stressful finish, but still a win nonetheless for the New York Mets. So, where do the Mets go from here with Senga's injury? So, hamstring strains, as I said, they can vary wildly in severity, from a brief absence to potentially a multi-month injury. So, the minimum is 15 days on the IL. I do think, if I was going to predict anything, based on his reaction after it, that seemed extreme, but then after he had time to sort of calm down and relax, getting off and walking off on his own power, I have no doubt it's a hamstring strain, but it's one that's going to probably limit him for the next 15 days. And they're going to be very cautious with him, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make sure that even when he comes back off the IL, that they're limiting his workload, and they're making sure to stick with the 6-man rotation, obviously, but also going with maybe even holding him to 4 or 5 innings at first when he first comes off the IL, because they don't want him in that situation where he goes on the IL for multiple months. And that's definitely not what you want. They just moved Paul Blackburn to the bullpen. They're going to easily slide him back into the starting rotation. And then, you keep in mind, and this is something I talked about last episode, which is that they have 2 more starters on the way back. Frankie Montas is likely 1, possibly 2 rehab starts away from making his return. And then Sean Manaea, who's probably going to need about 3 or 4. They're not expecting him back until late June, possibly early July. So, they're not hurting for pitching here. This doesn't actually affect them that much, although it does hurt them that they're going to be without Senga, their best pitcher this season. But for the most part, in terms of things that could have happened here, this was certainly on the lesser side, and you can look at this through the strain of optimism that basically things could have been much worse, but it's certainly a blow, but not a blow that's going to take them take the wind out of their sails anytime soon. They're still riding very high, and they're going to continue their six-game homestand on Friday with Clay Holmes on the mound facing the Tampa Bay Rays. So Nationals head home to face Miami Marlins. So it's a bittersweet win. Another impressive performance by the Mets. Another sweep. Great to see those extending their lead as the best team in baseball. Even fantastic to see 21 games over 500, the best record in baseball. But the cloud of Kodak Senga's injury and the uncertainty surrounding his return, those definitely do loom large. And let's just hope for the best possible news from that MRI tomorrow. So I did want to change gears real quickly and talk about what I've been seeing in the internet space the last week or so. And it's been interesting because the Yankees fans have largely retreated, I've noticed. There has been still like the Soto sort of bashing and the occasional rub of hey, you're still the little brother team, all this stuff. But it is not as much since the high point of the tension, which was coming after last month and with the Subway Series. Things have definitely gone back down, and it's hard for Yankees fans to sort of throw any kind of shade at the Mets right now because once again the Mets have the best record in baseball. It's tough for them to throw shade at Soto even because Soto, after two slowish months from Soto, he has gone red hot, particularly in this national series where he was swinging a huge stick and was hitting for power, driving the ball the opposite field, and doing everything that the Mets, this is what the Mets are paying for him to do. And he has raised his average steadily up more and more. He is now, I think, second or possibly even tied for Alonso in WAR now. Which just a couple weeks ago it was like he was a distinct third in this team in WAR behind Lindor and Alonso, but he has come up real red hot, and so because I've noticed the Yankees fans, at least in terms of their online personas, sort of retreating. I have noticed that the people who are still barking, they're still throwing their mouth shade in, are these commentators. And I'm going to point out a couple people. One is Danielle What's-Her-Face from WFAN, and she had made this kind of BS contention that Juan Soto, that this was, any success that Juan Soto has, you can basically just throw the caveat on the end of it and say like, well, it doesn't really matter if he's doing well right now because, did he do well against the Dodgers? Yes, no, but he did not do well against the Dodgers, but he did do well against the Rockies and the Nationals. So what does this mean? Anything? No. This is what her opinion of it is. And I call bullshit on it, mostly for a couple reasons. One, I'm going to say this, which is that, is it based off of like a one or two series does not make up somebody's entire season. If so, I could say that Aaron Judge is the worst player in baseball because come October time in these series, he disappears. So I say complete bullshit on that. The other person who has been in the news lately has been Michael Kay. And Michael Kay, I have immense respect for the SNY commentators because, and I've said this before, they hold a lot of their opinions back in terms of fandom. Like they are all obviously, two former players and a lifelong Met fan make up the announcing booth for SNY. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, and Keith Hernandez, despite being, home announcers, they never show that in any kind of major way. There's nothing anybody could ever accuse them of being impartial in any kind of way. They are, accuse them of being partial in any kind of way. They are the most impartial group of announcers I've ever seen in baseball, and you know it when you listen to the radio snippets or the different TV blips that come up if you're watching highlights from around the league, and you're like, these announcers are just like they just sound like homegrown fans who, or former players who obviously have huge stake in it that they are reporting favorably for the home team. what I'm getting is that Michael Kay is very much the latter of this. There is no impartial bone in his body. He is very partial to the New York Yankees, and it's led to Kay having a very contentious relationship with the Mets and their fans, and it's leading to accusations of animosity right now. So the antagonism has escalated publicly because of the Juan Soto situation. This is the key conflict point right now. So in last month, Kay, after the series against the Yankees, he was reporting that Juan Soto seemed very, very glum around the clubhouse after the obviously the contract signed with the Mets, and he was trying to make suggestions that Soto had really wanted to stay with the Yankees and that he hadn't really wanted to sign with the Mets, but it had been on the decision of the family, which was true, but also Yankees fans are kind of throwing this in a way that they're trying to color this in a way that Soto would have wanted to stay with the Yankees, and he would be quote unquote happier to be with them. And Mets fans' reaction was very strong, especially as Soto's performance has improved these last few weeks and was seen visibly enjoying himself. And I said this about Soto before, that Soto is a guy who seems very stoic. He's kind of a lone wolf, not a guy who develops a lot of interpersonal relationships, and he's a new person joining this very close-knit clubhouse. After 2024, all these guys are like bonded for life. Nobody's ever going to be like, oh yeah, it was the odd man out on that team. Everybody was as close as brothers after that. There was a life-changing experience I'm sure for everybody. And to say that about professional athletes is funny, but I firmly believe it because those guys are so tight-knit, and it's a really great clubhouse. And there's a lot of guys to credit for that. Lindor, Alonso, Jesse Winker, a lot of people, Starling Marte, a lot of them are just great clubhouse guys. And when you have Soto in here, who is I don't want to say famously stoic, but like a guy who is not really great at kind of developing friendships, when you see him enjoying himself, it's good to see that. And Mets fans were using it to kind of debunk Kay's whole report, let's say that. Report, I'm going to say bullshit on that also. Kay responded earlier, is it this week or it was either this week or last week, with he called it an absurd rant. He called Met fans ill-informed. He called them nitwits. He called them moronic, dumb, lying punks, fleas. He said they were living rent-free in his mind, and he was living rent-free in their minds, and was asserting that Met fans cannot enjoy any kind of success because they always have to have a grievance. And there's a little bit of truth in that last sentence, I think, but undoubtedly this was like a major escalation of tactics on the part of Kay, who this was just a full-blown crash out from him. And he denied it, that this was like a click-based rant, that he was trying to get people to sort of focus in on him and make it trying to get that viral moment. It was a weird time to be doing any of this. The incident obviously highlights just how commentary serves as a loyalty test, because it's all about challenging fan excitement, and escalating this into a personal confrontation is a real sign of the amount of professionalism that Gary Cohen and the SNY guys have, and the lack of professionalism that Michael Kay has. Michael Kay may have a long career. This was like an insanely unprofessional moment. Gary Cohen has no love for Yankees fans. I've never heard him say anything remotely near that. So that was just a ridiculous moment. And I do think the rent-free thing that he said was contradictory, because this was just another amount of the Yankees fans being so obsessed with what the Mets are doing, and it extends to Yankees personalities. The WFAN Danielle, still don't know her last name, and Michael Kay now, and there's a lot of people who just continue to just kind of throw their hat into the ring because they know it's a way to generate clicks. It is a great way to sort of stir the pot. And Kay frequently states that Mets fans, that this is, they can't have success. They have to have that grievance. And I do think he just kind of like lost his mind, and there was the recent thing with the New York Mets broadcast team that they were being called the best move in baseball. Very true, and it led to public mockery from Gary Cohen. The awful announcing had ranked them the Mets number 1, Yankees were number 22, and it's just a matter of the way that you're kind of projecting and the way that you're throwing your opinions around out there. It's unnecessarily aggressive, and I didn't understand why any of this was happening, other than to say that it kind of aligns with all this hot take sort of stuff that keeps happening, and these TV and radio personalities that just have to keep throwing their hats into the ring, and it's just a ridiculous, polarizing thing to do, and the way that platforms like Twitter can like really amplify this conflict, it just allows for these direct confrontations to sort of continue to perpetuate themselves, and it comes off as very defensive. I gotta say, as a Met fan, I just interpret it as just defensive on the part of their success and the loss of Juan Soto, which is just a mind-blowing loss in the for Yankees fans. They never had to experience anything like that, and they are still trying to sort of sort out their whole feelings. And I feel like the entire Yankees fan base has to go kind of like see a therapist at this point, because this is all about like I feel like I want to like buy them a book like for dummies, like how to get over the girl who dumped you. Like, figure it out. Like, it's really not that hard to sort of just move on. If this was a relationship with a woman, you would have been saying already, just move on with this. Like there's no reason to keep fucking harping about this and going off and doing all this dumb stuff that just is just these public crash outs from all these Yankees fans and now Yankees personalities, and it just continues to reflect this. The media standards are just about being as loudmouth as you can be, and engaging in debates that are just very superficial and don't do anything, and it just continues to sort of just continues to establish these media personas. I find it all just very disheartening and discouraging. And from a aspiring podcaster like myself, I don't want to do stuff like that. I don't want to be the person who's just like, let me say like hot take, I think Juan Soto sucks. Like, that's not the kind of person I want to be. I want to report on these things as impartially as possible, with the SNY broadcast team as sort of as the blueprint for myself. That's what I want to be. I don't want to be like Michael Kay. I want to be like Gary Cohen. That's my 2 cents. And if that's a hot take, then sue me. But I think that is that those are the gold standards, the role models for everybody to be, is the SNY announce booth. Thank you for listening to Mike's Mets Podcast. If you haven't already, please follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like and a comment. It helps so much. Finally, please follow our Twitter and Blue Sky pages. You can find us at Twitter at Mike's Mets Pod, all one word, and on Blue Sky at Mike's Mets Podcast.bsky.social. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day or evening, and let's go Mets.